Bombshell tonight. In the last hours, the musician D4VD, David Anthony Burke, in court and caught on camera winking to his legal team. He's not worried about Celeste. This as the bombshell lands. Celeste Bestie says Celeste was pregnant.
David Anthony Burke showed up again in a Los Angeles courtroom, and even though the hearing didn't last long, the impact was huge. What came out during those few moments may have completely shifted the direction of the case for both prosecutors and the defense. People inside the courtroom could already tell this investigation is getting way bigger and messier than most expected. Right at the center of it all is 21-year-old romantic homicide singer David Anthony Burke. He's currently facing extremely serious charges, including first-degree murder, continuous sexual abuse involving a child under 14, and unlawful mutilation of human remains. The case is tied to the death of 14-year-old Celeste Reeves Hernandez, whose decomposed and dismembered body was discovered inside a Tesla in Los Angeles on September 8th last year. Reports say the Tesla was registered to David in Texas, adding another layer of attention and controversy to an already explosive case. Prosecutors have now added several special circumstance allegations tied to the murder charge, and that raises the stakes in a major way. If Burke were ever convicted, those allegations could make him eligible for life in prison without parole or even the death penalty, despite California currently having a moratorium on executions. Investigators are pointing to multiple factors, including allegations of killing a witness, murder for financial gain, lying in wait, and the alleged use of a deadly weapon. That combination has turned this case into one of the most intense courtroom battles people have been watching. The medical examiner's office reportedly determined that Celeste's cause of death was multiple penetrating injuries. Prosecutors allege Burke killed her to stop her from speaking publicly about what they describe as an illegal relationship between the two. They also brought up alleged text messages from the night before her death, claiming she was upset and threatening to expose him. According to prosecutors, investigators believe fear over the relationship becoming public may have been the motive behind the killing allegations, making the entire situation even more disturbing and complicated. Prosecutors claim that on April 23, 2025, Burke allegedly brought Celeste to a property in the Hollywood Hills where they say the deadly attack took place. Investigators allege she was stabbed multiple times before being left there, and the accusations surrounding what happened next have shocked a lot of people following the case. Prosecutors also claim Burke later ordered several items online that investigators believe were connected to an alleged attempt to hide evidence, including chainsaws, body bags, laundry bags, and even an inflatable pool. Those details alone added another dark layer to an already disturbing investigation. Authorities say they've built their case using a mix of forensic evidence, surveillance footage, cell phone records, DNA findings, and witness statements that they claim connect Burke to the alleged crimes. Inside the courtroom, the hearing itself moved fast, but people there described the atmosphere as tense and heavy, with some even saying it could end up changing the direction of the entire case. According to courtroom observers, Burke appeared calm and surprisingly comfortable during the hearing.
Taylor Parise, thank you for being with us. Tell me what happened in court. Is it true David Anthony Burke, D4VD, winked at people in court?
Yeah, Nancy, thank you for having me. He was very casual. As he walked out, his defense said something to him. He smiled and he winked as he was taken out of the courtroom.
Okay, right there, my teeth are on edge. Who was he winking at, Taylor Parise?
Witnesses said he looked tired, unshaven, and noticeably different from previous court appearances. He entered wearing an orange Los Angeles County Jail uniform with a white long-sleeve shirt underneath. His curly hair appeared longer than before, but despite his appearance, observers said he stayed alert and closely followed everything happening in court. During the status conference, Burke reportedly kept looking back and forth between the attorneys as they spoke, paying close attention to every part of the discussion. When the judge asked him about delaying the upcoming court dates again, Burke answered briefly, saying, "Yes, Your Honor." Even with the short response, the moment added to the tense mood already hanging over the courtroom.
How did he look? What was he wearing?
He was wearing his orange jumpsuit as he has been. Last time he was clean shaven. Today we saw the beard was growing in a bit, but he was very casual. He had his arms on the armrest. He was leaning forward. Yeah, he was very comfortable, it seemed like.
Very comfortable. Good to know.
The biggest development from the hearing was that the court schedule is changing again. Another status conference has now been set for June 17th. While the preliminary hearing, which had already been delayed once from April to May 26th, has now been pushed back yet again. The new preliminary hearing date is scheduled for June 29th. When the judge asked if Burke agreed to the updated timeline, he once again replied, "Yes, Your Honor," before deputies escorted him out of the courtroom. Reports say the investigation has exploded in size, with more than 40 terabytes of evidence involved. That reportedly includes data pulled from computers, tablets, iCloud accounts, surveillance footage, cell phone records, witness information, travel history, and alleged Amazon purchases tied to the case. One of the biggest surprises from the hearing was that the latest request to delay the case reportedly came from Burke's own defense team. Earlier in the case, his attorneys had been pushing hard for a fast preliminary hearing so they could challenge the prosecution's evidence as soon as possible. But now, the situation appears to have flipped completely. The defense reportedly told the court they still don't have enough discovery material to properly prepare for what's coming next. Prosecutors say the massive delay is tied to the unbelievable amount of evidence connected to the investigation. Prosecutor Beth Silverman told the court the case now includes more than 40 terabytes of material, which is an enormous amount for both sides to go through. According to Silverman, prosecutors only started uploading discovery files the previous Thursday. Discovery is the legal process where prosecutors and defense attorneys exchange evidence before trial, and in this case, the volume of information appears to be creating major delays already. At the time of the hearing, prosecutors had reportedly uploaded only around 10 terabytes of evidence out of the estimated 40 terabytes tied to the case. Prosecutor Beth Silverman told the court that sorting through and turning over that much material could take several more months, showing just how massive this investigation has become behind the scenes. Legal analysts say the defense could benefit from extra time because of the sheer amount of evidence involved. Burke's attorneys also argued that they were still waiting on important DNA-related material, along with witness narratives they believe are necessary before the preliminary hearing can fairly move forward. That disagreement created even more tension inside the courtroom as both sides debated whether the current schedule was realistic. Prosecutors pushed back and questioned whether June 29th would actually stay locked in as the official date, or if another postponement could be coming soon. The judge responded firmly, making it clear that if anyone wants another delay after this, the request must be submitted in writing. Silverman also pointed out that cases involving huge discovery disputes can sometimes face repeated postponements, but the judge stressed that this case would not be allowed to stretch out endlessly for years. The case has become even more complicated because reports say multiple grand juries have already reviewed evidence connected to the investigation.
Yeah, so he was winking at his defense team. Blair Burke was specifically who was speaking to him.
Taylor Parise, was D4VD, David Anthony Burke's family, in court?
I did not see them in courtroom, no.
Interesting.
Grand jury proceedings happen in secret, and unlike a regular court hearing, the defense does not participate in that process. A grand jury can issue an indictment based on the evidence presented by prosecutors alone. But in this situation, no indictment reportedly moved the case forward, meaning prosecutors now have to continue through a preliminary hearing instead. That matters because a preliminary hearing gives the defense a chance to directly challenge the prosecution's evidence in open court. In large and highly complicated cases like this one, that process can lead to repeated delays as both sides argue over evidence, witness information, and forensic material. Prosecutors continue to allege Burke committed the crimes while also pushing to keep the case moving forward as quickly as possible. From the prosecution side, long delays can create problems because witness memories may fade and evidence can become harder to manage over time. That's one reason prosecutors reportedly want the preliminary hearing to happen sooner rather than later. One major piece of evidence mentioned in court filings involves DNA. According to the prosecution's brief, bloodstains collected from Burke's garage reportedly matched the victim's genetic profile, adding even more attention to the forensic side of the case. Another huge unanswered issue in the case involves possible witnesses and what information they may have shared with investigators. Burke's defense team appears to be arguing that they still cannot properly prepare because they have not yet received certain witness narratives along with requested DNA-related evidence. That missing material is reportedly one of the main reasons they asked for more time before the preliminary hearing moves ahead, and prosecutors responded by saying they have already turned over lab reports, LAPD reports, and around 10 terabytes of evidence so far, roughly a quarter of the total amount connected to the case. But with nearly 30 terabytes still left to review and upload, nobody seems fully certain about how long the discovery process could continue. The sheer amount of digital material has become one of the biggest obstacles slowing everything down. A large part of the reported 40-terabyte evidence collection may involve video files, which can take up massive amounts of storage space. Some of the material connected to the alleged relationship between Celeste and Burke may never be shown publicly if the case eventually reaches trial. Investigators have repeatedly described digital evidence as one of the most important parts of the investigation. During earlier hearings, prosecutors claimed they found a large amount of alleged exploitative material involving minors on Burke's devices. Prosecutors have not publicly stated whether all of that material involved Celeste, but Burke is facing charges connected to alleged crimes involving her. Prosecutors continue to argue that the alleged relationship between Burke and Celeste sits at the center of the entire case, not just the sex crime allegations, but the murder case as well. Their argument is that if they can prove Burke feared the relationship would become public, that fear could play a major role in explaining the alleged motive behind the killing. That claim has become one of the biggest focal points in the courtroom battle so far. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere reportedly felt quiet and controlled rather than emotional or chaotic. Most of the people in attendance were members of the media, along with prosecutors, defense lawyers, and court staff. According to observers, there did not appear to be family members present for either Burke or Celeste during the hearing. Proceedings began shortly after 8:30 in the morning and moved at a very fast pace. The courtroom rules were reportedly extremely strict, with no cameras or cell phones allowed inside. Even though the hearing only lasted around 10 to 15 minutes, people watching closely still focused on Burke's behavior throughout the session. Observers said he appeared calm at the defense table, resting his elbows while listening carefully as attorneys spoke. He reportedly looked back and forth between lawyers, nodded at one point, and maintained eye contact with the judge. When asked about the new June 29th court date, Burke answered clearly, "Yes, Your Honor." People inside the courtroom reportedly described Burke's behavior as unusually calm and composed, especially considering the severity of the charges stacked against him. And this case goes far beyond a standard murder accusation. Burke is also facing additional charges, including continuous sexual abuse involving a child under 14, along with allegations connected to the unlawful mutilation of human remains after the victim's death. The combination of accusations has made the case one of the most shocking and heavily watched courtroom stories in recent memory. It is still unclear whether prosecutors will officially seek the death penalty. However, because prosecutors allege special circumstances in the murder case, that option legally remains on the table. Under California law, only one qualifying special circumstance is needed for a case to become death penalty eligible, and prosecutors have reportedly listed 3 separate allegations here. Even with California's current moratorium on executions, pursuing that punishment could make the legal fight far more complicated and dramatically extend the trial timeline. Burke is presumed innocent unless proven guilty in court. Still, the allegations themselves are extremely serious, involving the death of a 14-year-old girl whose dismembered remains were later discovered, along with accusations tied to sexual abuse and an alleged violent cover-up. As the investigation keeps moving forward, there are still several huge questions hanging over the entire case. One of the biggest mysteries involves the witnesses prosecutors may eventually call to testify. People following the case are wondering who these witnesses are and what information they could reveal once testimony begins in court. Another major question centers around the wording used in the charging documents themselves. Prosecutors allege Burke stood there and watched Celeste bleed out, but many people are asking how investigators reached that conclusion. Was that claim based on witness statements, surveillance footage, forensic findings, digital evidence, or simply an interpretation built from the timeline investigators created? That part of the case has sparked a lot of speculation already. The possibility of video evidence has also raised major attention. With surveillance cameras now common in many neighborhoods and homes, some are questioning whether footage connected to the investigation could exist. Investigators have also described David as someone who frequently used cameras and recorded parts of his daily life through live streams, photos, and videos. That has led to growing questions about whether some kind of digital footage could eventually become part of the case.
It's kind of giving Harley Quinn. Okay. Aw, cute. I like it. And then, wait, what is this? Stickers?
Stalkers. Oh.
The defense has denied all allegations, and Burke has pleaded not guilty to every charge filed against him. But one part of the defense argument has grabbed major attention. Burke's attorneys reportedly argued that he was not the cause of Celeste's death. That statement immediately opened the door to even more questions surrounding the case. If the defense claims Burke did not cause her death, then who did? Could investigators eventually accuse someone else of being involved? Could another suspect or additional charges appear later as the investigation continues? Those questions are now becoming a huge focus for people closely following the case. Investigators are reportedly still examining whether Burke acted alone or whether another person may have helped at some stage. Authorities have not publicly confirmed any additional suspects, but they also have not ruled out the possibility of others being connected to the allegations. That uncertainty continues to fuel speculation around what investigators may still be uncovering behind the scenes. And investigators are also looking at the overall timeline and logistics described in the allegations. Prosecutors claim Burke, who was 20 at the time, carried out the killing, dismemberment, and alleged cover-up before later traveling to Santa Barbara to dispose of evidence. While investigators believe it could have been done by one person, authorities have not publicly stated that outside involvement has been completely eliminated. The investigation could also expand depending on what digital evidence reveals. Prosecutors have alleged illegal material involving minors was found on Burke's devices, and investigators may still examine whether any additional state or federal charges could apply as evidence continues to be reviewed. The exact cause of death could end up becoming one of the biggest courtroom battles in the entire case. According to reports, Celeste's body remained inside the Tesla for a significant amount of time and was found in a decomposed and dismembered condition. Because of that, the defense may eventually bring in its own forensic pathologist to challenge how investigators concluded that the cause of death involved multiple sharp force injuries. That kind of expert testimony could create major clashes between both sides during future hearings or at trial. A defense expert could argue that evidence tied to dismemberment or alleged cleanup efforts does not automatically prove how the death itself occurred. The defense may also question whether another factor contributed to the cause of death or whether investigators relied too heavily on assumptions built from the timeline. Another major point of attention involves prosecutors' allegation that Burke watched Celeste bleed out. People following the case have been asking where exactly that claim came from. That allegation could reportedly be based on several possible forms of evidence, including witness testimony, surveillance footage, forensic findings, or digital data pulled from cell phones. Investigators may also be looking at details such as when Celeste allegedly arrived, when her phone activity stopped, and whether anyone attempted to contact emergency services. At this stage, it still remains unclear whether prosecutors are relying on direct evidence or conclusions drawn from the timeline itself. Another issue drawing attention is the coordination between the LAPD, the Medical Examiner's Office, and the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. Questions have reportedly been raised about why certain records were sealed, why parts of the public information later changed, and why charges were not filed immediately following Burke's arrest, adding even more mystery and controversy to the case. More questions are now being raised about the actual timeline of the investigation itself, and some people following the case believe those details could become important later on. Reports say the LAPD arrested Burke on April 16th, but formal charges were not filed until April 20th. That gap between the arrest and the filing of charges has sparked discussion about how investigators and prosecutors were coordinating behind the scenes during those early days of the case. The basic timeline currently known to the public is straightforward. The arrest happened first, charges followed several days later, and some of the publicly available information connected to the case was later updated or changed. Those developments have only added more attention and speculation around how the investigation has been handled so far. Another issue that continues to generate discussion involves speculation over whether Celeste may have been pregnant. As of now, there does not appear to be confirmed public evidence proving that she was. Reports state that the medical examiner's office later updated records to say pregnancy status could not be determined, possibly because of the condition of the remains. Prosecutors have also referenced messages involving pregnancy concerns and discussions about Plan B, which has caused even more debate about whether that issue could eventually play a role in the prosecution's alleged motive theory. Another major issue people are watching closely is the digital trail investigators reportedly uncovered during the case. Prosecutors have repeatedly pointed to cell phone data, online activity, surveillance footage, and cloud storage records as some of the strongest evidence in the investigation. In modern cases like this, digital evidence can end up becoming just as important as physical forensic evidence inside the courtroom. Investigators are reportedly examining location data, timestamps, internet searches, travel records, and communication logs to piece together what allegedly happened before and after Celeste's death. Prosecutors appear to believe that timeline evidence could help support their version of events, especially regarding movements tied to the Tesla, the Hollywood Hills property, and later travel connected to the investigation. Every digital detail could become heavily debated once the case reaches the next stage. At the same time, the defense is expected to closely challenge how that evidence was collected, interpreted, and presented. Defense attorneys may argue that digital records alone do not automatically prove criminal intent or directly confirm what happened during the alleged crime. Questions about missing data, deleted files, account access, and who controlled certain devices could all become major courtroom arguments later on. With tens of terabytes of material still being reviewed, both sides appear to be preparing for a long and extremely complicated legal fight ahead. For now, the entire case remains in limbo as both sides continue preparing for what could become an extremely long legal battle. Another status hearing is scheduled for June 17th, while the preliminary hearing has now officially been pushed back to June 29th. With prosecutors still working through what they describe as more than 40 terabytes of evidence, the investigation appears far from over. And hanging over everything is the same chilling question people keep asking: what exactly happened inside that Hollywood Hills property? Investigators say they have a massive amount of digital, forensic, and witness evidence still being reviewed, but how much of it has actually been made public so far, and could future hearings reveal details nobody has heard yet? This case continues to raise huge questions, and the next court dates could bring major developments. If you want updates as new information comes out, make sure to like, subscribe, share this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.